Good afternoon, Maverick traders. It's Joe with you here on a Tuesday, the 18th of April. This is an options expiration week. I can't believe we're almost done with this month. Things fly, but that's not what the markets are doing. I've got my 2 cents I'm going to share with you. Take responsibility for the outcome. You guys know the drill. Let's get into the market analysis. What I mean by the month's flying by, but the markets aren't, is we're not seeing a whole lot of traction being gained over the last couple of days, although the charts look a lot more optimistic. So we're going to have to stick with what's in front of us. How do we finish today? Flat, straight up. Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ barely registering a 0.1% there, right? So the Russell finishing just shy of 0.5%. Oil and gold also just kind of hanging in there. The dollar slipping a little bit. There's a little bit of worry about it losing strength globally. That's about the biggest headline that I've seen in the last couple of days. News-wise, options expiration this week, like I mentioned, very little movement so far. Not much on the economic calendar until Thursday. And even then, folks, it's just the jobless claims. We'll see if that's going to be in line or slightly lower. We've seen a lot of positive economic news, or I should say contracting economic news, giving it a positive reaction to the markets because of Fed that might stifle interest rates. And we've just kind of parked it since then. We have earnings starting. They've kicked up a little bit. In fact, Netflix came out and said they're getting rid of their DVD division. And the market's down. Well, it was down about 2%. It's actually trading even right now. Let's look at the advanced decline line. 50% declining, 45% advancing, 5% doing nothing. Above, below the 50-day moving average, about 50-50. It's really just been parking here and not much movement at all. Let's take a look at the chart themselves. And you guys can see here, when it comes to these charts, we do have a bullish movement over the last few days, but I'll get my little box. I'm not seeing too much outside of just a kind of a channel between this 405 and 415 level. I might have drawn that a little bit short. Today did a look pretty good. I liked it. I wanted to see something a little bit glass half full, and what I was shooting for, guys, is I really want to see us get above this line here. I think this is going to be pretty key when it comes to the overall trend on the SPY. Understand, this is a sector, I should say, or a division or index that really struggled with a pretty good bank scare and seemed to just kind of shrug it off and move forward. So moving over to the Qs. The Qs are showing a lot more consolidation than I should say the SPY when it comes to being able to fit this little box here. However, it's a different story. This one is already above its previous high that it set early in the year, where the SPY is below it, and this is more of a high base potential to break to the upside. So this is definitely a glass a lot more half full. But if you take a look at, let's take a look at Friday of last week, Monday and Tuesday, we really aren't going anywhere. And I believe because there's just not much out there to drive it anywhere. Rob made mention of this on the weekend class, saying that when we get into options expiration weeks, they usually don't go anywhere, and often they do close a little lower on the week. We'll see if that's going to hold true this week. Moving to the heat map, you can see it's just speckled. Johnson & Johnson actually had earnings. They came out and they were in line. They did really well, but they did have a huge amount of payment on their talcum powder lawsuit. They're paying out a bunch of money for that. I don't know if you guys have been following that. That's been going on for decades. But other than that, the company is doing pretty good as far as the bottom line. They increased their dividend, and they're going to make it so on and so forth. NVIDIA is continuing to take off. I think it's just that darling stock that everybody loves. It's the leader in AI. That's the only big green and the big red that I see. Everything else is just kind of a small shade of brown or just a little bit of green. So not much movement at all. Where does that leave us? Absolutely where we've been for the last week. The end of last week. I was pretty much flat across the board, +1 on the monthly outlook. But since I saw the 50-20 crossover, you guys can see that here, right around this area there, I had to bump up to +2 and +1 for the weekly outlook. It's obvious. The markets are moving higher. There's an optimistic investor out there. And as far as the technicals go, we're in a pretty good situation to where we could see these markets move higher, barring some sort of outlier or the unknown we talk about here at Maverick, or a whole slew of bad news in a row coming from earnings. I just don't see us doing much more than having maybe this slow grind higher. I do think that when we do break out of this top, it might be a pretty quick little shot up, but it might retrace, consolidate, things of that nature. I don't have too much for you when it comes to our potential trades, but I did want to share some stuff that is looking pretty good and pretty weak based on what I'm seeing so far. Now that could definitely change based on how things go, but this is what I've got so far. So let's take a look at FSLR. This one had a really good move to the upside yesterday and kind of parked it at that 220 resistance. It did gap down a little bit this morning, but you can see that it moved itself back up just shy of that 220 again. So this looks to me like it really wants to bust up above that resistance level. So we'll see if it can. Sideways to up on this, being glass half full, something bullish makes total sense. I did not check earnings on any of these trades, so please double check them before you jump on it. Another one that I thought was cool was Lin, L-I-N. This was one that we took a look at last trading room, I believe, and it's got this nice slope upward, and it's back up to its resistance as well. So here's that resistance level that it's just poked its head above with a gap, and it stayed there. It's not a huge one, just under 1%, but I just like the rally into this area, and it looks like it could outperform. It's in basic materials, specialty chemicals, which has been weak. It's been weaker as a sector for a little while, but it looks like it's starting to emerge. So see if that's going to turn around, or see if the sector's going to turn around and kind of help this or continue to push this higher. On the bear side, Southwest Airlines. This was an easy one to kick a dog when it's down. It came out today, had 1,500 flights delayed, technical issues. Once again, Southwest is struggling. If you take a look on a weekly chart, this thing has been in a downtrend since April of 2021. So it's not doing well. It had some major hiccups over the last holiday season with delayed flights, canceled flights. I think a lot of that had to do with weather. But this is sure not helping it going forward. We got rising fuel costs. We got all sorts of different things. We might even have a consumer that might be less active when it comes to travel if we are going to feel the recession, or areas or parts of a recession moving forward, or a slowing consumer, I should say. This did, however, recover. You can see it did close off of its lows here with this shadow, but this volume just show that, hey, yeah, there's a lot of people pushing to the exit. We'll see if this is going to break. I have it on the bear because it's just been pushed and pushed and pushed, and as soon as this is given up on, I think it might just roll right over. And it might not be on something like an event day like today, but it is enough to remind people where this stock actually kind of falls. I'm not sure what its earnings are. Be a great, interesting thing to see. I don't think they're going to do very well based on their track record over a little bit. But hey, let's keep that on the back burner. Might be kind of a bear for a few reasons, right? Fundamental more than and technical. Zoom is the last one that I saw that I liked, at least for Tuesday. We've got Wednesday and Thursday coming up. Hopefully we'll have some more trades to take a look at. This is also showing a really cool descending triangle pattern as of late, and I do like it a little lower than where it's at. I'd be comfortable with this breaking the 66 mark, although you can make an argument of breaking this area, which is a little higher. You can see, I'm trying to make the argument here with some lines. Well, the last little pivot point that it had here, the end of March, if it could break that, it could probably slip past that 66 and move lower. So just a couple things on my watch list that I'm kind of kicking around. I'm not jumping out. I'm not trying to grab them right now. I'm not super excited to push buttons. I'm just going to kind of keep an eye on what I've got and what's going forward. There's my 2 cents. It's a flat week so far. It was a flat Friday. Friday, we go into Monday. Tuesday, we gapped up, came down. Monday, we actually gapped down, went up. Well, we'll see what tomorrow and the next few days bring. We don't anticipate anything outside of specific company earnings. Keep an eye on that. Down at the bottom here, Netflix, ISRG, we got Interactive Brokers, United Airlines. Now, those are the ones I saw just for this afternoon. We'll have more next week and going into later on this week. So check them as you go. Super light on the economic news. Thursday's the jobless claims. That's it. That's pretty much the only thing that raised my eyebrow. And coming out of the week that we had last week economic-wise, I think the markets are pretty satisfied and happy to feel that they were in the correct state of mind, thinking the Fed doesn't need to be as aggressive as it has been. I think the Fed's starting to agree. So now that the markets have gotten what they wanted, we're just kind of this hangout, what do we do now area. So let's just kind of follow along with what the markets are doing. All right, guys, that's all I got for a Tuesday, a boring Tuesday, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, folks.